Hello everybody, welcome to a British Audiophile. If you're new to this channel and we haven't met before, my name is Taron. It's hard for new brands to emerge in the hi-fi industry. There's an awful lot of upfront business costs and research and development. That takes time as well as money. And even if you get a good product, how do you get it in front of people? Well, Iota VX is one brand that was able to push through in the last few years. They employ a direct sales business model, and due to the power of YouTube no less, using reviewers such as myself, they were able to get their product in front of a lot of people and establish a sustainable business model. The Iota VX SA3 that retails for £399 is the amplifier that put them on the map, and deservedly so. Was able to compete with the big boys, the likes of Denon, Yamaha, Marantz, and make no apology for it. It's highly regarded by YouTube reviewers, including myself. I've been taking a look at a new Iota product, their new digital front end, the MP3. This has an awful lot packed into it: a CD player, network streamer, DAB FM radio. It'll even connect to other digital sources, and in an all-digital system it has preamp functionality as well. You can now have a full Iota VX Hifi system, just add speakers of your choice, and that's exactly what I've been testing. I paired it with the SA3 amplifier, and I also paired it with the PA3 power amplifier in a pre-power combination. I asked Iota for an additional PA3 amplifier so I could run it in monoblock configuration as well. That's one MP3 with two PA3s, and that's one of the most affordable pre-monoblock configurations available in the hi-fi industry, if not the most affordable. So let's see how I got on. The Iota VX NP3 currently retails for £499 on their website. It's sold direct, so you'll have to check what sales taxes and shipping charges apply in your country. It's a full width unit, measuring 435mm, that's 17.1 inches wide, and weighing in at 6.3 kgs, that's 14.2 pounds. Press the button below the logo to take the NP3 out of standby. Above the OLED display, you'll observe a slot for CDs. The USB port will accept USB sticks and drives up to 500 gigabytes. Press the mode button and the volume control knob doubles up as a source selector and to access system menus. You just press it to confirm selection. There's a return button as well as back and next track selection buttons that flank the volume control knob. It also comes with a fully featured remote control. There are one set of analog RCA outputs, digital outputs via optical and coax, but no asynchronous USB, which is a shame, but understandable for the price. There is a USB input though, labelled PC USB, along with coaxial and optical inputs. Below the DAB FM antenna, you'll find the extension port for the Iota optional Bluetooth adapter. Bluetooth doesn't come as standard. The USB-A slot at the rear will also accept USB sticks and drives up to 500 gigabytes. There's an Ethernet network connection for streaming and a Wi-Fi antenna that's a giveaway that will connect wirelessly as well. The RS232C input is for home installation purposes where you need to connect to external control systems. The trigger and dimmer connections allow you to synchronize power and illumination with other Iota devices. With all the functionality that the MP3 has, I mentioned that I thought it was a shame, as well as understandable given the price, that it doesn't have a USB digital output. Let me just explain why. It's understandable because a USB type of connection requires a different kind of interface. That's additional circuitry, and that perhaps wasn't an option around this price. I think it's a shame because that connection is asynchronous, and what that means is it's no longer the streamer but the external device. It's most likely to be an external DAC that is now responsible for the timing of information. And if you're connecting to an external DAC, it makes logical sense that it's probably going to be better quality than the DAC that you have in the MP3. Otherwise, why would you bother? Because it's probably a better quality DAC. It's likely to have a better quality clock inside it as well. That has an impact on the jitter performance. Jitter is problems in the timing of information. It lowers the jitter, and that's one of the benefits of an asynchronous connection, the main benefit as far as I'm aware. If you're using an optical and coaxial connection, it's still the streamer that's responsible for the timing of information. And that places a bit of a glass ceiling on the performance of the MP3 as a streamer when you're using it from an upgrade perspective with external DACs. If you think bits are bits, I don't know what to say to you. Perhaps spend a bit more time with components that have lower jitter performance and evaluate them for yourselves, or do some research where designers have talked about the impact that lowering jitter has on the performance of a system. I went into this in quite a bit of detail in my Denafrips DDC review, the Denafrips Iris DDC that I did, and I'm quite happy with how that video turned out. It is a bit techy, but if you're interested in learning about this, perhaps check that review out. Let's take a quick whistle-stop tour of the internal gubbings. Here on my right hand side we have a switch mode power supply with a small little transformer. Those capacitors are from Chinese manufacturer Decon. Nothing fancy, but what you'd expect around this price. There are actually 3 boards behind this front display. I've got this unit turned around the other way, of course, and they deal with the user interface. That's the main CD drive. It'll play SA CDs as well, which is a nifty feature. And behind that you have the main PCB board. That black board sticking up deals with the Wi-Fi antenna. There's also a green board that protrudes that deals with the DAB FM radio. There's a main ARM processor here, which I should imagine is the brains of the unit. An XMOS processor, they're normally used for USB interfaces, so I should imagine that handles the USB input. An AKM digital transceiver, I should imagine that might have something to do with the Bluetooth. And here is the Cirrus Logic CS4398 DAC chip. What I expect from a device around this price is for all the essential attributes associated with good sound quality to be present. You no longer have to accept major shortcomings in sonic performance, even from an all-in-one unit around this price. And that's because for £200 or £300 you can get a very good DAC out there and use your DVD player or Blu-ray player as a CD transport and your phone or streamer as a network streamer. And they'll offer that kind of performance. So the MP3 has to compete on that kind of playing field. Let's get into it and see how I got on. So what are those expectations, and does the MP3 meet them? I have to say I think it does very squarely. It has a fairly even tonality. It doesn't draw your attention to one particular region in the frequency range over another. The bass has very good control. It's not the last word in bass weight, even for a unit around this price. I think this is sensible voicing. Iota amplifiers have fairly strong bass, so you'll match those quite well. But also, it's likely to be partnered with speakers and amplifiers in the sub £1,000 category. They've gone more for articulation and definition in the bass, and I think that's going to be a good match for speakers and amplifiers in that range. The mid-range is perhaps the standout feature of the MP3. It has excellent clarity. I've heard equipment at double the price of this that doesn't have leading edges, those transients as clearly defined as this. It does overall have a slightly dry and analytical nature, but again, I think this is sensible voicing on the part of Iota. It pulls you into the music and allows you to hear a little bit more detail. It does mean if you're partnering it with equipment that's much more expensive, for example, amplifiers and speakers at around £2,000 a piece, you'll hear certain limitations. The acoustic mass, the body, the tonal richness isn't quite there to do those systems justice. There's a little bit of graininess in the upper mid-range, which will become apparent too. But come on, let's get real here, guys. If you stick to appropriately priced partnering equipment, I'm talking about speakers and amplifiers at £1,000 and below, those traits are not going to get picked up. The high frequencies are a little bit boosted, which again places added emphasis on details within the musical presentation. I don't think you'll find it bright and aggressive unless you partner it with speakers that are a little bit tilted up in the top end as well. Brands like B&W and Focal are the ones that come to mind. They're probably best avoided. But as long as your speakers don't have that trait, I think you can listen to it for long periods without any listening fatigue. I was certainly able to. It has a respectable sense of scale and dynamics. No, it won't give you an all-encompassing sound feel and inky black backgrounds that give you great layering front to back. That's the preserve of higher-end systems. But it has a great sense of rhythmic drive. Even with relatively complex passages of music, it'll catch onto a rhythm and won't let go. And the soundstage extends nicely beyond the speakers left and right. Something I almost forgot to mention. The fidelity when using the DAB radio or connecting external USB drives where you may have hardware stored to the MP3 does drop down a bit. So those features should be considered more for convenience as opposed to for ultimate critical listening. It's fairly straightforward to set up the streamer. The first thing you need to do is to connect the MP3 to the network, either with an Ethernet cable or wirelessly. You can then access the point in the menu system where you can input your network password. Presently, you'll have to download the WeM app either on your iOS or Android device and then follow the online instructions. It's very straightforward to set up and it's a good sounding app. I presume it's an interim measure because Iota have their own proprietary app in the pipeline. If you've already got the Iota VX SA3 integrated amplifier and you're looking to add the NP3 as a digital front end, how do those two components fare together? Well, they're a very good match visually as well as sonically, and that's to be expected. But now you've got two DACs, the DAC that's inside the SA3 and the DAC in the MP3. Which one's better? Comfortably, the MP3 is better. I can't quite remember what DAC chip was used in the SA3. I think it was a Burr Brown chip. It's a Cirrus Logic 4398 chip inside the MP3. In any case, it's a lot more to a DAC than the actual chip itself. But the implementation of the DAC is much better in the NP3 than it is in the SA3. It's cleaner, the instrument separation is better, and this is the DAC I believe that the SA3 actually deserved. The only reason the SA3 didn't get an outstanding was I felt the internal DAC let the side down a little bit. If this DAC was inside the SA3, it would have got an outstanding. If you're starting a system from scratch and considering the MP3 and looking to buy an accompanying amplifier, there's no point in buying the SA3 unless you need analog connections. Buy the PA3 instead. Not only do you save yourself £100, you now have a pre-power combination and all the sonic benefits that come from having a power amplifier in its own box and a preamplifier and digital section in its own box. Things improve again, the overall clarity goes up, the sound stage is a little bit wider, instruments snap a little bit more into focus, the transients are a little bit sharper. The benefit of going down that route is that you can add a second PA3 later. You now have a preamplifier and two monoblocks, one PA3 to power the right channel and a second PA3 to power the left channel. Not only do you have a lot more power over double going to 100 watts, which means it will play louder, you've got complete stereo separation between the left and right channels and the sonic benefits that that brings. Power amplifier is one of the most electrically noisy components in your hi-fi chain. The overall sense of scale and dynamics improves noticeably. Yet again, the soundstage is wider. But the most noticeable trait perhaps is the bass hits a lot harder and is a lot cleaner. There's a lot less bleed through to the mid-range, which means the overall clarity goes up. Those transients now are crystal clear. And the background seems dark enough to allow some micro details and some decays to emerge. There are limits to how far you can go with the MP3 though. They were probably best illustrated when I hooked it up to my Hagel H160, which has a very good internal DAC. I could hear how the H160 was being held back by the MP3, and pretty much in every regard. The overall sonic presentation shrunk down. There was a lack of body, clarity and refinement that was especially noticeable in the mid-range. But that's a £2,500 amplifier connected to a digital front end that retails for less than £500. Hardly a fair comparison, just providing this as a way of context. What you also have to remember is that the Hagel H160 has an internal DAC that's based on a DAC that retailed for around £1,000 a few years ago. I'd say the DAC inside the MP3 is comparable to DACs, good DACs, around the £200 to £300 price range. As for speakers, the MP3, along with all the Iota VX amplifier combinations, work really well with the Amphion Argon 1 speakers that you see behind me on the stands. They also work really well with the Acoustic Energy AE509 speakers that I had in recently for review. Regular viewers of this channel probably waiting for me to say something about my Product Response 1SCs. No, they didn't work with them. The Iota VX NP3 network player is a very comprehensively featured and thoroughly competent sounding all-in-one digital device. Sure, there's limitations as to how long you can live with it as you upgrade your system, But realistically, if you're looking at amplifiers at £2,000 and speakers at around the same price, are you going to be pairing it with a digital front end that retails for less than £500? I don't think so. For those of you who've got more modest wallets and more modest ambitions, if you're looking at speakers and amplifiers, especially below £1,000, I don't think you're going to crave for anything much more than this. It comes highly recommended. So that's it for me and my review of the Iota VX NP3. If you like this video, please do that social media stuff. Hit the like button, share it. If you'd like to see this channel grow and you haven't subscribed already, please consider subscribing and hit that bell notification so you know when new videos arrive. And don't forget to check me out on Patreon, where I offer some Patreon-only content and some consultancy services. And also, if you join the ABA club, it'd be nice to chat face-to-face sometime. But for today, for now, the British Audiophile, signing off.